Hello and welcome to Insider Track, and today we're going to be talking about Aston Villa, who under Unai Emery have gone from relegation contenders to European contenders. They've got a big summer ahead, we think. We've talked about Newcastle and Chelsea and Manchester United and Manchester City being big spenders, but chances are Aston Villa are going to be big spenders too. A guy that's put a few stories, my colleague Pete O'Rourke is here with me. He's had a few things about Villa recently. It could be an exciting summer for the Villa fans. Pete, tell us what's going on with Aston Villa. Let's start with the goalkeeper position, actually. Let's go from back to front, shall we? Easy peasy.
Yep.
Emi Martinez, World Cup winner, incredible goalkeeper. Lots of interest in him, but would be a big fee, wouldn't it, to get him out of Aston Villa?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of interest in Emi Martinez. As you said, he's had such a great time of it of late, helping Argentina win the World Cup. And since he's come back from the World Cup, he's been superb for Aston Villa in goal. I think he's 8 clean sheets in 2023. I think so. That's right up there amongst the best goalkeepers in the Premier League. We know he's a top goalkeeper, so there is going to be interest from other top European clubs and also Premier League clubs. Tottenham have him on their list as they do seek a long-term replacement for Hugo Lloris. Atletico Madrid are also admirers of Emi Martinez as well, and I'm sure that any other top European club that is looking to reinforce their goalkeeping department this summer, Emi Martinez is definitely going to come into their consideration. So yeah, Aston Villa, they want to keep Emi Martinez right now. As I said, he's been a key player in their recent climb up the table, and he's a top player, big player as well. Obviously, he does annoy a few fans with his antics and everything else, but if you're a fan of Emi Martinez, you got to love him for the way he behaves, I think, as well. And his stats back up as well with so many clean sheets, and I think he's a big character in that Aston Villa team as well. So they really won't want to lose him. So you're probably talking £40 million plus fee if they were to sell him, I think, and then it's a tough task to replace him as well. So Aston Villa will be shopping around that market as well. The likes where Tottenham are looking at, also Chelsea are in the market for a goalkeeper, Manchester United are in for a goalkeeper. Dean Henderson could be one name to keep an eye on. Obviously, It looks like his long-term future at Manchester United is shrouded in doubt, and with the player on a loan at Nottingham Forest right now, maybe Aston Villa could go and offer Dean Henderson a permanent home if they do lose Emi Martinez. But the priority right now is not to lose him.
Yeah, that's the priority, to hold on to him. We'll see if they try and nail him down, perhaps with a new contract or something like that in the summer. But of course, there will be interest. Just on Unai Emery, Pete, he's done an incredible job there, hasn't he? It's been quite remarkable, the turnaround. Obviously, he came in to replace Steven Gerrard and his cohort, who left Villa in a situation where everyone was going, Unai Emery's just got to try and keep them in the division. And now it's Unai Emery's got to try and get them in the Europa League and potentially Champions League, although that might be a bridge too far at this point, but it's been a weird season, so you never know. What a job he's done.
Yeah, unbelievable job, to be fair to him. As you said, they've won 7 of their last 8 games and now just 6 points off that top 4. So you would never rule them out of that race right now. And they do look like they've got a decent fixture list between now and the end of the season. And form and momentum's okay, as we know, Fraser, right now at this stage of the season. And Aston Villa have got that. But I think if you look at it from the turn of the year, I think even Aston Villa have got more points than Arsenal and Manchester City. So that shows the consistency and the form that they've displayed under Unai Emery. So all credit goes to the manager. He only made a couple of changes maybe in the January transfer window, bringing in Alex Moreno at left back, and he's left out a few other players as well. Made a big decision as well, letting Danny Ings leave and go to West Ham, and that put all the responsibility on Ollie Watkins and how he has responded. He's been electric in the last few weeks, really pushing for a strong end to the season. One of the most informed strikers in Europe, I think it's fair to say right now as well. So, as you mentioned at the top of the show, Villa have gone from fighting relegation under Steven Gerrard at the start of the season to challenging for Europe right now. And I think you got to say right now, Aston Villa could achieve anything. And if they were to get in that top 4 and qualify for the Champions League, Unai Emery's got to be right up there for manager of the season, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, you've got O'Neill at Bournemouth as well, potentially, who's kept them up. He could be in line for that. Eddie Howe, if Newcastle get Champions League, people will say, well, he's manager of the year. Arteta wins the league, he's manager. There's so many guys having an amazing season, isn't there? And Unai Emery maybe had a point to prove in England as well, Pete. I think that might have make him feel good. Some of the doubters or things that were thrown his way. Let's look at the right back position you put out yesterday, but Kyle Walker being looked at again by Aston Villa. Obviously, Kyle Walker's at Manchester City. Has been a stalwart at Manchester City now for a lot. Well, what's that? 6-7 seasons, something like that. Long time.
Yeah.
Premier League winner, but now getting to an age where perhaps will Pep be looking to replace him permanently with someone new, someone fresh, and Villa might take advantage of that, Pete.
Yeah, obviously there was a bit of speculation over Kyle Walker's long-term future at Man City with those comments from Pep Guardiola just a
Mhm.
few weeks ago, suggesting that he cannot play this role that he wants his fullbacks to play, this new hybrid fullback who drops into midfield. Obviously, he's had John Stones playing in this role at the minute in this Manchester City team, and it's really worked for them. John Stones has been brilliant in this role, moving into midfield when Manchester City are in possession. So it's made it hard for Cal Walker to break in to their starting 11 at Manchester City. He's not getting any younger, Cal Walker. So will he be happy to maybe sit on the bench at Manchester City? I'm not too sure. He might think he wants to go and prove himself to anybody who has doubted Cal Walker. And I'm sure he probably wasn't too happy with those comments from Pep Guardiola suggesting that he couldn't play this new role as well. But Cal Walker's a top player. He's proven that at Manchester City with all the success and the honours that they have won during his time at the club as well. He's still England international as well. I'm sure he'll be looking to play first team football. He's obviously got links with Villa, having had a spell on loan there before as well. So it's a club that he knows all about. And again, his experience, I think, could be key to Villa as they want to build on what they've done so far this season as well. Be a massive signing if they could get him. And it all depends on what Kyle Walker wants to do and maybe what his role at Manchester City. If it remains restricted like it has done in recent weeks and months, there might be a decision to be made by all parties in the summer.
Well, certainly will bring in a lot of experience for them as well in that area. A guy that's been, like we said, Premier League winner. Could hopefully get himself a Champions League winners medal by the end of the season. That's also been the long-term aim for Manchester City for a long time. They'll see if they can do that this year. What other areas in the pitch are you expecting Villa to strengthen? Centre-back could be another key area for them, Pete, as well. Defence is an area that actually Unai Emery's spoken about quite publicly a few times, given the kind of hint that you would expect him to add a few numbers in that area of the park in summer.
Yeah, I think obviously Unai Emery, throughout where he's been, always has a strong foundation at the back. He sets his teams up to be hard to beat, to keep clean sheets, and he's really got a tune out of Tyrone Mings and Ezri Konsa since he's gone in there. As I said, 8 clean sheets in 2023. That's been the foundation for Villa to go on this winning run and move them up the table as well. I think it's not just about bringing in new defenders. He's improved defenders as well.
Yeah.
As I said, he's definitely improved Tyrone Mings' performances in recent weeks. At the start of the season, it looked like Mings could be on his way out at Aston Villa. He was out of favour under Steven Gerrard, lost the captaincy to John McGinn. But yeah, Unai Emery's definitely got the best out of him. And there's even talk of a potential England recall for Tyrone Mings. His form's been that good as well. So yeah, credit to Unai Emery for that one and for Tyrone Mings for bouncing back as well in that one. But yeah, obviously Diego Carlos was one of Aston Villa's big signings in last summer. Unfortunately for him, picked up a serious injury quite early on into his Aston Villa career. He's now worked his way back to fitness, but is finding it hard to break into that team as well. So maybe him coming back next season with a good pre-season under his belt would almost be like a new signing because Villa fans haven't seen enough of the Brazilian as well. So they'll be hoping to be able to call upon him next season as well. But I still think Unai Emery will maybe look to strengthen that defensive options as well. He's got Callum Chambers on the bench, who's maybe not a long-term answer for Aston Villa, especially if they are going to become regulars in the top 6, pushing for European qualification, also maybe challenging for trophies next season as well. Unai Emery, as we've seen in the past, has always picked up silverware. He's had a great record in Europe as well at the Spanish clubs he's managed that as well. So I do think Aston Villa, he wants to build from the back, and he will definitely need to add numbers into that rear guard next season, I think, for Aston Villa to continue their progress.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, Diego Carlos was a guy that was linked with Newcastle, Spurs as well last summer. There was a few people that were looking at him, and Villa managed to land him. So you're right; they'll be gutted that they've not actually been able to properly see their new signing get a run of games as well in the Premier League. So, and now they're playing so well, they can't get in. But I'm sure that will change next season. There could be some names that Spain to look out for as well for Aston Villa, certainly in defensive ranks. People that maybe Unai Emery has worked with before. So keep an eye on that.
Maybe Paul Torres, Villarreal, they had a good relationship
exactly.
together, and he's been linked with moves to the Premier League in the past as well. So again, maybe the Unai Emery factor might help in Villa's pursuit if they were to go for somebody like Paul Torres.
Yeah, you just stole my thunder. Exactly what was about to leave my lips, Pete. That's exactly it. We're hearing the same things. But yeah, Pau Torres is another one that's, like you said, always linked with a move away, but it's never quite happened for him. He's still only, I think, 24 years old. I might be saying I might be giving him the service there. He's 26, he's 26 years old, so an experienced player for Villarreal. Unai Emery loved him, raved about him when he, worked with him. So one to keep an eye on for sure. And then talk to me about up front, Pete, because obviously yesterday the news came out about Miles Leeburn, is that right? And then obviously Ollie Watkins, who's just told us that the training he's been given is learning to shoot quicker, which is amazing how if you just learn to hit the ball faster, you'll score more goals. I'll tell you, as a Rangers fan, watching them pass 90 times before they actually hit the ball was the most frustrating thing in the world. So is Miles Leeburn on his way to Aston Villa as well to join?
He's somebody who's on their list. He's a very talented young player. I don't think Aston Villa see him as ready to go straight into their starting 11 next season. They see him as a project that they can work and develop into a potential Premier League star of the future. He's had a very good season for Charlton. He's obviously got footballing pedigree in his heritage, with his dad being a former player as well. But yeah, he's done really well at Charlton. Still only 19. He's got 12 goals in League One this season. One of the most highly rated young players in the EFL right now as well. So I think Aston Villa do see him as a project that they could work on. Maybe sign him in the summer if they can, and then maybe loan him back to Charlton to ensure that he gets regular first team football to aid his development. Because I don't think if he was to join Aston Villa this summer, I don't think he'll be getting too many opportunities in the first team right now as well. And it might be a bit hard for such a young player as well to break into that Aston Villa team as well. But a number of clubs are looking at Leeburn. Aston Villa are amongst it right there, and they do see a potential star in the making here in Miles Leeburn. So keeping really close tabs on the young forward. And as I said, they see him as a star of the future, and somebody they want to try and bring to Villa Park, and somebody who they can hope they can develop.
Yeah, and I think that, Villa wanted a striker in January. They did have a nibble at a couple of people. The likes of Dembele at Lyon was available because his contract expires, for example, but that never moved any further forward. Ollie Watkins is obviously picked up form. Perhaps that's an area that they're going to keep. Maybe that's made them think, well, we could maybe spend money more in other areas to strengthen. That 10 position could be somewhere as well behind the striker. I think that Villa could look to bring in someone else too. There's only a number of them available at the moment. We'll see what happens there. But in the midfield, you've obviously had Luis as well. Douglas Luis, isn't it? Am I making that up? Yeah, Douglas Luis.
Douglas Luis, yeah.
I said that there with so little confidence. I was like, there's no way that can be right. So you've got Douglas Luis in the middle of the park as well, a player that's constantly been linked with moves to Arsenal, constantly been linked with moves away. But is he another one that perhaps could go? Because although Villa do have good backing, good money at the club, FFP and all the other factors, they might have to get some players out if they want to get some in, right?
Yeah, I think they're going to have to be smart in the transfer market, as you said. Maybe a few outs to maybe raise some funds for any further spending from Aston Villa. But as you've mentioned, their owners have always backed their manager. They've been very ambitious as well with some of their signings. They've not been afraid to put their hands in their pockets and spend the money to try and lure some of these big names to Villa Park as well. But yeah, Douglas Luiz, very close to leaving Villa last summer during the transfer window. Big, strong interest from Arsenal, but then he went on and signed a new contract at Aston Villa as well. So they're pretty hopeful that he will stay. But if he continues to impress in this Aston Villa midfield, there might be interest again from other clubs in the Premier League and also in Europe as well, in the Brazilian. So that wouldn't surprise me if there is interest in the midfielder come this summer as well. But yeah, Villa have tied him down to a new contract. They are pretty hopeful that they can keep him as well. And I'm sure the way things are going at Aston Villa, Douglas Luiz can see the exciting project and the development of the team under Unai Emery right now as well. As I said, they're a team that seem to be going places, and if they were to qualify for the Champions League, why would a player want to leave Aston Villa right now? They're a team that's making real progress, and I'm sure Unai Emery gets another couple of transfer windows under his belt. He can mould that team even more into what he wants it to be. And as I said, for such a quick transformation of the team, Unai Emery's done remarkably well. And I just think if Aston Villa do qualify for Europe, there could be real potential there to grow and become a major force in the Premier League.
Aston Villa getting the Champions League, that'll be the biggest surprise of the season. I don't think anyone, there'll be one man who's put a bet on for a 5 at the start of the season, won't there? And you'll see it all over Twitter when he gets the money. But yeah, absolutely unbelievable job. And Unai Emery's a manager that's done well in Europe as well with the clubs he's been at. So it could be interesting to just in the midfield, Pete, in that area too, in the wide areas. Do you think Villa could spend, how many players do you think Villa could bring in, and what kind of what kind of aims have they got here, do you think? Do you think it'll be big name signings? It'll be players that the people have heard of? Or do you think Unai Emery's going to build for a longer term future this window?
Yeah, I think there'll be big names definitely on that transfer list that the recruitment team are going through right now. Reece Nelson at Arsenal is one name that's been mentioned for a potential signing at Villa. Top player, Reece Nelson, but he has found it hard to break into that Arsenal starting 11 on a regular basis. When he has figured this season, he has come up trump for Arsenal on a couple of occasions with some big goals as well and earning Arsenal points in that one. But it's an interesting situation this summer for Reece Nelson, coming to the end of his contract right now, so he could potentially leave on a free transfer. And I'm sure Aston Villa, as well as several other Premier League clubs, are monitoring his contract situation at Arsenal. Talks are ongoing over an extension as well, but will Reece Nelson want to sign a new contract and remain on the fringes at the Emirates next season? That's a big question that's going to have to be asked by him and his representatives. While if he went to Aston Villa, I think there's a quicker pathway to regular first-team football. I'm sure Unai Emery is a big admirer also of Nelson, having worked with him during his time at the Emirates Stadium as well. I think he did maybe block a couple of moves for Nelson as well to keep him around the squad. So he's obviously well aware of what Reece Nelson can offer to the team. So I think that could be an interesting one to keep an eye on. And as I said, Reece Nelson, versatile player, can play in a number of positions as well. So again, would definitely improve that Aston Villa squad.
Yeah, I'd also look out for Aston Villa in the James Ward-Prowse race because that'll be one that will be very interesting. If Southampton are to get relegated, there's a number of clubs that like James Ward-Prowse, obviously a very good player, not just the set pieces. Obviously, he's everyone talks about that, but he's more than that, and I think Villa could become quite a name in that as well. One that they're watching, my understanding is. So Reece Nelson, again, like you said, contract talks on with Arsenal to extend his contract, but what if Villa are in Europe and say you can play every week? It's quite hard to turn down that opportunity, Pete, as well for Aston Villa. So it will be a big summer. Villa are expected to spend money. We'll see if they get in the Champions League. If they do, fair play to that one man that put on that bet. But I mean, my goodness me, it's the most unexpected outcome ever. And Unai Emery would have to be manager of the season, right? If they manage to get that. But thanks, Pete. Anything else you want to tell us just now, or are we covered on Villa? Is that us? Are we all good for them?
No, I think it'll be a busy summer, Villa. Potential outs as well, Fraser. I think there'll be some maybe big name departures who aren't playing too regularly right now. Luca Dean has obviously dropped out of the favour under Unai Emery since his arrival, bringing in Alex Moreno from Real Betis in January, and he's gone in there and become first choice left back at Villa Park as well. And I can't imagine Luca Dean will be too happy with that situation. So he might be one that the club might be willing to let go in the summer. He's obviously quite a high earner as well at Villa, so they might be thinking they could trim the wage bill if they can offload the Frenchman as well. And I'm sure the Frenchman might be thinking he might want to move on in search of regular first team football. And again, I think Fraser, this has been well covered, that possibly Philippe Coutinho could be on his way as well. He's had a really frustrating season this term. Obviously not seen the best of the Brazilian for Villa this season. He obviously did quite well last season when he arrived on loan, working under Steven Gerrard, had a good end to the season, which helped him win that permanent move to Villa Park, but it just hasn't worked out for the former Liverpool player this season as well. And again, another high earner who doesn't probably want to be sitting on the bench, and Aston Villa don't want him to be sitting on the bench if he's sort of hitting their wage bill quite heavily as well. So I think there could be a mutual parting of the ways for Philippe Coutinho in the summer as well. And if those two players were to leave, it obviously gives Villa more funds to spend in the transfer market themselves.
Yeah, Coutinho's a curious case, isn't he? Because he was what he was at Liverpool, and everyone thought he was going on to become one of the best players in the world. Went to Barcelona, not worked, and Steven Gerrard brought him into Villa as one of it, almost like come and play with your old pal, and he did, played well, but it's not quite worked out. One to watch in the summer for sure. And Luca Dean, such a big signing from Everton when he came in, was one of the best in his position in the league probably at points. And then that's again another one that's just not worked out. Moreno's done very well since he went in there, as you said, Pete. So another name that could go out. And if Villa are expecting to bring fresh faces in, big names in, the wage bill, FFP, all these things, like we said before, need to be worked under as well. So these are guys that can make way for new changes at Villa Park. So thanks for your time, Pete. It's going to be an exciting summer and beyond with you again soon, probably to talk about someone else, maybe Villa again. We'll wait and see. But I look forward to it and much appreciated. So see you next time, Pete. Cheers, man.
All right, mate.